Come on in, guys. That was bad. That was not Jeffy at all. I'm going to try again.
That was wild.
So
Alex, intro, take two.
No. Morning, guys. That's more Jeffy. It's like it all has to run
so
together.
masculine.
Yeah. Morning, guys. Because it's time for another episode of Outwatch, the Survivor Rewatch podcast. We're all here. We've all come in. On Outwatch, we rewatch, recap, and react to old seasons of Survivor, and we are in season number 6 of Survivor the Amazon, and you find us here in episode 11 of that season titled Q&A, where we will talk about what happened in this episode and react along with you, whether you're rewatching along or reminiscing on the beautiful times of these old seasons of Survivor. My name is Alex, and I will be your host for this pod. And I'm joined by 3 friends who are relative newcomers to the Survivor world, experiencing this season for the very first time. So before we get into what happens in this episode, it's time for you to meet the rest of the Outwatch squad, starting with Adam. Welcome to Outwatch.
So happy to be here, Alex.
Adam, this episode, the Immunity Challenge, was a game where everybody was given a questionnaire asking some questions about everyone, some of which were mean, some of which were overtly sexual. And
surprise.
Yeah. As far as this season goes. And then everybody at the challenge had to guess whose name came up most as an answer to those questions. So I thought we would play a game like that today. So I'm going to ask you a question. All of us are going to, in our heads, come up with the answer to that question, and then you're going to guess who would have shown up the most. These are some actual questions from that challenge. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Also, I'm going to go ahead and say hello to Emily and also to Scott. Hello, Emily and Scott.
Hey, guys.
Because we will all be participating in this game at once. But Adam, your question is first. The first question is, who would you most trust with your life? And I think let's answer these for our own, from our own perspective. We're not answering who would Adam most trust with his life. You know what I'm saying?
So who would I trust with my life?
Yeah, Scott's saying who he would trust with his life. I'm saying who I would trust with my life.
And it's limited to just us 4.
Just the 4 of us.
Okay.
Does everybody have their answer?
Yeah.
Great. Adam, who do you think was the most named person?
I think Scott was the most named person.
Okay. Scott, who did you pick?
I said Adam.
Okay. Emily, who'd you pick?
Do I need to say why?
No, it's okay. It's okay. We're all going to name who we picked. Okay. Emily, who'd you pick? Emily.
Well, I was thinking.
it's just an answer.
I was thinking life or death situation, and I chose Scott.
Yes, exactly.
I also picked Scott. So Adam was right.
Oh, no. Too much pressure on me.
I was like, well, who here is the most closest to being a doctor?
Right.
It's definitely not anybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, Adam he was a camp counselor, but
Certified
Scott's
professional rescuer.
an
Thank you
actual
very much.
practicing medical professional. So
Yeah, it's true. When Emily was injured before her marathon, she went to Scott.
that's true. I did.
Yeah.
I know. Could have went to a lot of other people. There's this guy.
Those other people might have charged your money.
Right. Thanks, Scott. I still owe you.
The best free
data.
physician out there.
No, so I said Adam because I feel like Adam always has like a bunch of random knowledge.
That's true.
So like I just picture like in a pinch, I feel like Adam could get me out of a pinch.
That's true.
Yeah, because this is the problem with the question is if it's like life or death, like I'm dying?
Yeah.
Or is it like I need to find someone who's willing to sacrifice themselves for me? Because if that's the case, it's Emily.
I don't know. I just took the text from the question.
Right.
Yeah. We all had to interpret it on our own.
That's right. Okay, Emily, you're next.
Oh, good.
Your question is, who would you most like to see pose nude in a mag? I'm kidding.
I almost said the F word, but I don't know what kind of rating this podcast has. I hate this question.
I'm not going to do that. Who is the most honest?
Oh. Which, for our audience, that was a real question that they had to answer. It was despicable.
It was rough.
The first one. Okay, who's the most honest?
Yep. So let us all come up with our answers.
Oh, jeez.
Okay,
Is
I have
everyone
mine.
ready?
I have
I
mine.
definitely have mine.
Oh, no.
You can choose yourself, I'd say.
You can or cannot?
You can.
You can.
Okay.
Scott, do you have yours?
Yes.
Okay, Emily, who is your pick?
Oh, jeez, Pete. I don't think I've ever noticed Alex lying. I think I'm going to go with Alex.
All right. Adam, who did you write down?
I wrote down Alex.
Wow. Adam, who'd you write? Or Scott, who'd you write down?
I also said you.
Wow.
Ah!
I said
Yes.
Adam.
Oh my
Well,
gosh, he
no,
lies to me every
you're
day.
such a liar. You did not put my name
I did
down.
put Adam because I thought that Adam usually has some things to say that like maybe, he shouldn't say them.
Oh,
And
that's a good angle. Yeah, Adam's pretty blunt.
He's so honest.
Adam can be pretty blunt, but at the same time, he will straight up lie to me. Every single day.
About
What
what?
were you lying about yesterday? Do you remember?
I don't remember. There's too many lies to remember them all.
That's hilarious.
Filter does not equal honesty.
Hmm.
Hilarious. Okay, well, thank you for validating my honesty. Appreciate that.
No problem. Thanks for being honest, man.
Yeah, I try my best. Okay, Scott, your question is, who would never survive on their own?
Are you specifically saying like on the
If you were
island
on
or
Survivor?
just like I have to live by myself?
I would say, yeah, I think the implication is like physically, literally survive. Like if you were
Okay.
dropped by themselves in the wilderness.
Okay.
Does everybody have their answer?
Perhaps.
Adam?
Yeah.
This is a hard one.
This is a hard one because I think we all would do pretty bad.
You're not wrong.
I'm definitely
Yeah.
tossed up between two people, that's for sure.
Yeah. Okay, Scott, do you have your guess?
So love you, man. I'm gonna say you.
Yeah, fair. Fair.
I mean that in the best way possible.
No, I hear you. I was also my pick. So there's one.
I would
Adam,
make myself second, though, just to be completely honest.
Adam, who'd you put?
It was a toss up between you and Emily, and I ultimately went with you because Emily was a Girl Scout.
Her Girl Scout history just edges me out.
Yeah.
Now I know how Jesus felt. I'm ready to cry.
I'm gonna cry.
Emily, who'd you have?
You know what? I had a toss up between the same two people. I think I was leaning toward Alex because I was too proud.
Because your Girl Scout history.
It was pride. But then I thought to myself, if that island ever got cold, I would have just died. I would have just curled up in a ball and died.
Yeah, I think this is a fair answer. I would give up almost immediately, I believe.
No, because we want you to actually be on Survivor, and I think you can do it.
Yeah, that's like a controlled environment, though.
That's true. If we were just on an island, all bets are off. But if it were Survivor, I think
Yeah.
you'd really survive.
Yeah, I think I could
Survive
handle
and thrive.
Yeah. I saw a tweet one time. It was like a satirical thing, but I really I related to it and I thought it was really funny. It was like, in the wake of the zombie apocalypse, what will happen to us, the digital content creators?
I love it.
It's like, yeah, we're the first to go.
Yeah, that's funny.
Okay, well, we are talking about episode 11 of Survivor the Amazon titled Q&A today. And what do you say we start by taking a trip down to Tree Mail and break down what happens beat by beat in this episode? We start out by hearing from Alex that he really believes that he, Jenna, Heidi, and Rob have the game in control, and maybe even more than that, he actually likes hanging out with them. We get a nice character moment, which there have been actually pretty few of this season, from Jenna, where we learn that her mom is sick back home, which transitions nicely into the Survivor auction, this classic Survivor event where a lot of people get some tasty food, but most importantly, at the end, Christy gets a letter from home, and then Jenna ends up getting one as well. And they all get good news. Christy gets some good affirming words from her family, and Jenna finds out that her mom is doing better. Matthew and Butch talk about seeing their path forward, including Rob and Christy, as they are at the bottom of the numbers and have to make some sort of swing to get out from that. But nicely for Matthew and Butch, inexplicably at camp one morning, Alex tells Rob that when the four of them get to the final four, he's going to vote him out. Rob comes clean to Matthew then later about his manipulation of him earlier in the game, but then tries to convince him to vote Alex out after learning that Alex intends to vote Rob out later. Christy also wants to vote out Alex, but has questions about Rob's trustworthiness due to his sneakiness to this point. Then we have the aforementioned immunity challenge, which Rob wins, proving himself the most aware of everybody else's perceptions, perhaps. And now Rob is deciding, we get in a confessional, between the assuredness to a final four with Alex, Jenna, and Heidi, and uncertainty or perhaps certainty about his inability to get farther than that from there, or the vice versa when taking up the mantle with Butch and Matthew and Christy. Now his path forward to perhaps the final four is less certain, but he's got a better chance of making it deeper once he gets there. When we get to Tribal, it turns out that Rob votes alongside Christy, Matthew, and Butch and totally blindsides Alex, voting him out by a vote of 4-3 and sending Alex straight to the jury. And just like that, Scott, you're down another member. You went from the top of the mountain to being the only team with only one tribe member remaining.
Yeah, I did.
How high from the mighty have fallen? How much falling there is? How far there is for the mighty to fall?
Yeah,
Too far.
except for Adam, because we're still waiting on his fall from grace.
We'll get to the scoring later on, but folks, this has become a tight race going into the home stretch.
Oofy, poopy, scoopy.
Oofy, poopy, scoopy. You heard it here first, folks.
I probably pooped on myself.
That's what my tribe did this episode. Okay.
The tribe pooped all over themselves.
I feel like I'm a blubbering idiot,
Scott, can you empathize with that after being unwilling to trade some of your powerful pieces at our last trade opportunity?
It's easy to second guess yourself. I made the best choice I could at the time.
Yeah. You said earlier in this last episode that you don't want to Monday morning quarterback 13 years later. And I think that rings true here. It would be equally as hard to look back on, Troy Aikman's performance 13 years ago in
Can we start a podcast where we pretend like it's in 1992 and just redo the like NFL season or something?
No.
Emily's out.
cannot.
Emily's out on that.
We do like fake radio broadcast.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be fun.
Yeah, it sounds super fun.
Adam and I'll do it. You guys are
Yeah, Scott and I'll do it.
suckers.
Scott, remember that time when we did play-by-play commentary on the biathlon?
How could I forget?
Is that still on YouTube?
I don't know.
What?
I've got a
I hope
file
so.
somewhere.
Alex and Scott,
What a stupid thing we
they
did.
played around with the idea of doing a YouTube channel where they would do commentary on sports that they didn't understand.
Oh my goodness.
like silly sports. Yeah, that we definitely didn't understand.
Yeah, so the first one was a biathlon or something like that. It involved skiing and
shooting a rifle.
shooting a rifle.
Oh.
Yep. Link is in the description. Drop a like.
Drop a like. 6 years later.
It's probably not
Really
on
helps
YouTube
us
because I
out.
did just rip the footage from like the NBC Olympic page.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, let's start out the way we always start out. Well, actually, first, Scott, why don't you give a quick eulogy to Alex's game, as he was another member from your tribe who was eliminated this episode.
Yeah, honestly, like, as the weeks have gone on, I've grown to be somewhat annoyed by Alex. I don't really know why. I think it's just him. So like, I was not like overly sad to see him go, but also like I remembered he was on my fantasy team. And it's like, you can overlook a lot when somebody's on your fantasy team. Speaking from somebody who does a lot of fantasy football. So that was really sad to see that go. But as far as like gameplay, Alex, I'm kind of like, I'm not upset that I don't have to watch him anymore.
Yeah.
Barring him coming back in a later episode or season or something.
He doesn't. This was his one go
then
at
we're
it.
good.
Alex was like the picture of 2003 cool. With like the kind of like tribal, not like tribal tattoos and like, you know, what you think of when you think of a tribal tattoo, you know? But yeah, the like symbolic tattoos, the puka shell necklace, the low riding pants.
I bet Alex rocked a lot of Abercrombie and Fitch.
No doubt, dude. No doubt.
No doubt.
He married another Survivor alumnus, Kim Powers from Survivor Africa. That was a fun fact.
Love Kim.
We all love Kim.
Do you even know who she
I
is?
have no idea this person.
Can we get a cute couple pic, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Copy image.
Is he still doing triathlons?
I don't know if he's still doing triathlons.
We should get him on the
Taste.
podcast.
Yeah, Alex Bell, come on Outwatch.
Yeah, defend your use of Abercrombie. Did you wear it? Did you wear it?
Probably.
Explain why your shorts didn't have juicy on the butt.
Abercrombie and Fitch. What's that about?
We miss Austin.
Did you send us an image?
Yeah, I put it in the feed,
Duffy.
the Google
Maybe it's
Hangouts
just blank
feed.
for me. I don't know.
The
That's all right.
feed.
He also, there's this thing called, I told you about this at one point, right? Survivor America's Tribal Council. This aired after Survivor All Stars as like an audience votes show, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He was nominated for Sexiest Survivor Man, but he ultimately lost out to Survivor legend Colby Donaldson from Survivor the Outback.
Love Colby.
Yeah.
I actually remember him because I always thought of Colby cheese.
Yeah. I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
I wondered if he was named after the cheese. I remember.
The joy of watching things when you're 8
When
years
you're
old.
little,
Yeah. All right. Favorite moments from this episode, or perhaps just the biggest moments from this episode. Adam, would you like to kick us off with yours?
I enjoyed that Rob finally came clean to Matthew about everything.
That was interesting.
And Matthew was chill as hell about it, which was great.
Yeah, that was kind of surprising.
Yeah, it's surprising and unsurprising if we've learned anything about Matthew. He is the Zen master.
Yeah.
I think Rob realizes that he needs another person. He needs to have an alliance of two that he can actually trust.
It's a good point.
And I think he realizes that Matthew is the perfect alliance of two because he won't try to outsmart him, and he'll do what he says. That was great. Survivor Auction was a lot of fun. I can see why that would get old, like season after season after season,
right.
But having not really seen one, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I believe we got one in Cagayan.
Because everyone held out for the thing.
Yeah, for like the advantage. Yep.
Yeah, the advantage.
Yeah, I think that's a good point you make about like having to have a good pair. And yeah, Matthew is often described as Rob's kind of like strategy understudy. And, we see that to this point where Rob is stringing Matthew along and like telling him what to do. And he's pretty blindly doing it. And they talk about that a lot this episode too, where Matthew brings the physical strength, the ability to get stuff done around camp, and knows nothing about the game. But Rob knows everything about the game, but can't really provide very much. And so Matthew's willing to learn from Rob, which is not a great strategy to be in if you're trying to win the game. So yeah, Rob has found his number two. Scott, did you have a noteworthy moment from this episode?
I also really liked the Survivor Auction, but also like not so much like a single moment, but I was very like, I thought Matthew was very noteworthy throughout the episode. Like just like his confessionals, I thought were very telling.
Yeah, he gets, like we said last episode, gets a lot of like clown music, but he says like some really interesting and like pointed stuff. He said at one point this episode, I wrote it down, that like talking about that group of four, the Alex, Jenna, Heidi, Rob group early in the episode, that they're in control and everyone knows that they're in control, but they are like acting like they're totally in control. Like that there's no chance these other three can do anything. They just lay around and let the other ones do the dirty work. And he talks about how even if you're in control, you can't run around flaunting that you're in control, or that's going to give the other people either one, like Matthew says, no incentive to vote for you at the end, or two, like more, I guess, incentive or like a greater drive to do something about it, So Matthew says some good stuff. You're right.
Yep. I thought like very self-aware was like the thought in my head, I guess, for him this episode. But
it's also, if you think you're going to be in this game for the long haul and you treat everybody else like they're going to get voted out in the next move, I wouldn't do anything around camp.
Yeah.
Kidding me? If you're like, you're gone at the next tribal, cool. I'm not going to do anything though.
Right.
Like, why would I do anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could.
It's just a dumb way to do anything.
You could pull a Jatia and dump all the rice in the fire even.
You could. Man, Cagayan was a great season.
Right? It really is.
What a time.
What a time. Yeah.
We'll always have that season.
We always will. Emily, do you have a biggest moment that you wanted to talk about?
Much of what has been shared, I was living for Rob switching his alliance. That was very dramatic.
Yeah.
I liked it. I don't know. It was really annoying to see the four of them just lounging around.
Tanning.
Talking smack about the other people and just being really disrespectful to them as human beings. I didn't love that.
Yeah.
And I think I enjoyed the fact that they got called out on it through this switch. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, obviously from a strategy perspective, Rob had plenty of reason to switch things, but like, I don't know, does this happen if they're less like jerky about being in control? Like, does like Christy decide to make this move because she's seen as on the fence, but like, does their reign of terror drum up such ill will that everybody else is more motivated to make a move?
Right. And I just can't imagine laying around camp laughing at other people as they keep camp together.
Yeah.
And expecting that you're going to win. You know, that's just like so disrespectful.
Someone mentioned it was like high school,
Mm-hmm.
which was a good comparison. I want to talk about the story with Jenna and her mom this episode. There's been definitely lots of, we learn a lot about people as far as they're perceived in the game in this season, but there's not a lot of this sort of thing in this season where you get to learn about these people as like individuals from outside of the game, what they do in real life, how that, how they live their life and like the things that are affecting them, off the island. But we get a big one of those from Jenna. We learned that her mom is sick, and that, she left knowing that she was sick. But that she really wants to hear, from her via this letter at the Survivor auction. And then we ultimately, she does get one of those, and we learned that her mom's, cancer is in remission to some degree, right? And that, it's a really heartwarming, and just like a big, strong character moment from Jenna. I wondered if you guys had any reactions to that whole storyline and that whole scene.
This is a tough thing to talk about.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, I feel for Jenna. It sucks not knowing what's happening with your mom's sick and all those sorts of things. And I'm sure it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it was kind of bratty the way she acted at the auction.
Yeah.
And then got her way and then got back to camp and blamed Christy.
Right.
Even though she got her way, I don't know, that sucks because obviously I want her to feel good about what's happening back home and in her home life, but also recognize that you're not the moral compass of the tribe or whatever. Christy paid $300 some odd for her letter, and you paid $120.
And because everybody else let her do it.
Yeah,
right.
and Christy included.
Yeah, that just sucked.
Yeah.
That should have been such a good, heartwarming moment.
Yeah, I think that's what it came down to for me is seeing the auction and seeing Christy. She didn't buy anything. She just wanted that letter and knowing how hard it's been for her.
Mm-hmm.
This was another thing Matthew had really great insight on. He explained all of this pretty succinctly in one of his
he did
interview things. But, getting a letter from home meant so much to Christy because she didn't feel like so much of an outsider after reading that letter. And obviously Jenna I can't imagine seeing a letter that has information about how your mom is doing and you can't open it. That would be heartbreaking. Yeah. But I think the thing that, all of those factors aside, Jenna came back to Tribal with her letter and still complained about Christy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's that was a very petty move after Christy was like, I paid triple what you did. I'm happy to let you have this letter too. Mm-hmm. And it should have been such a human moment. And, we all have loved ones and this is important, but just hearing her complain about Christy in that moment was really disappointing.
Yeah. It's one of those examples of things where just the emotions are so high, and certainly she's not thinking clearly.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's a huge part of it. But
and then you saw the difference between Jenna was reading her letter in the middle of camp. Yeah. And Heidi and Rob and Alex are all there and they're all happy for her. And Christy is sitting behind a tree with nobody reading her letter. And she is really happy and energized by that. You see the difference in the social dynamics of the tribe right there.
Yeah, and it goes to amplify what we're hearing about Christy's experience too, that she feels like an outsider. And here we are seeing her, like you said, sitting alone, having this experience alone, reading this letter. Yeah, compared to Jenna where it's a whole deal. Yeah, it was really interesting. And again, this season, and I think early on in Survivor in general, we get a lot of what we would maybe call like character moments, and like we learn a lot about the people, but most of it is within the context of the game. You know, like this person doesn't get along with this person. This person thinks this person is a brat, whatever. But we don't get a lot of, you know, this is why I'm here. You know, this is what my life is like outside of the show that influences how I'm playing now, or influences why I want to win, you know, or influences who I am. And like, again, in early Survivor, that's a pretty rare thing. In more modern Survivor, that's much more common, you know, even in Cagayan, there's more of this. But as we get into like the 30s, there's a lot of it, to the point where it's like a thing that's made its way into the game because of the discourse around Survivor outside of the game, where it's like, okay, if we hear, again, in more modern Survivor, when we hear a lot about what this person like does in their real life and why we should root for them, then that's a clue that they are probably going to win, you know?
Yeah.
And such that like now on Survivor, people who have compelling stories about like, you know, they come from, they are like fairly impoverished at home, or they're, you know, in this instance, their mom is sick or whatever. Like they become threats on the show in the world of the game, because they're like, wow, this person has a great story. We can't let them get to the end or they'll win.
Right.
It's just this really interesting evolution of how this like character stuff, starts at here, where this is really the only moment like this, to my knowledge or to my recollection, that we have to this point, to the point where it becomes like it makes its way into strategy, you know, 15 years later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I also, I'll echo what Adam said. I was personally glad that Jenna got her letter and got to get that information. But from a storytelling perspective, man, there would have been a lot more drama and fun TV if she didn't get that letter and she came back like pissed, ready to like have Christy's head.
Mm-hmm. When they did that, though, I was like, there's no way, because they had just shared that news about Jenna. I was like, there's no way she's going to leave without a letter. That would be terrible.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah. Also, the music they chose for that moment was
so cheesy.
Awful.
What was? I didn't actually notice it.
It was like some like orchestral thing.
The moment being when Christy got her letter and we're watching Jenna breaking down.
Yeah.
Which was sad.
Yeah.
But the music was just over the top.
Yeah. They put something that it sounds very much like, hey, Google royalty-free sad music, and we'll just put whatever comes up on there.
And it was so loud. It was ridiculous.
They want us to be like sympathetic to her.
Oh my gosh, she's looking for it. She listened.
My Google Mini is searching for.
I knew it. You said that, and I was like, she's listening now.
We are now those people who like. Have you ever listened to podcasts where there's like Google ads and they say those two words in the ad, and then like my Google devices in my home are like looking things up on the internet?
Yep.
We've become that, and Google isn't even paying us.
It was an accident.
Hey Google, dang it, I did it. I didn't even mean to. I was actually addressing the. No, I'm not talking to you.
We can. I was gonna say we could try to use this to our advantage. We should start buying ad spots.
I know.
and just like make people say, "Hey Google, listen to Outwatch." That one's not plugged in, so we're good.
I'm watching the Googles to see.
We got to get to. There is like 7 Googles within earshot of us. We have to be careful.
This is gonna be like a case study in 50 years of how like people had tiny robots in their homes.
Remember when everyone was worried about the government listening to them, and then put in speakers that actively respond to your voice?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to talk to Google the corporation, not my own Google Dot in my room here. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about like the impact of like a loved one's visit or letters. Like this is a common, this happens almost every season of Survivor, right? And it's a common storyline associated with it where it's like, man, it's like a centering impact, right? Of like, when you are reminded of, like your actual life that you've more or less like pushed aside for the last 30 days. It like, it re-energizes people. It like re-centers them and reminds them about why they're here, and can a lot of times actually be like a really strong fuel towards the end of the game here to like, motivate them and even maybe spur them into making a move that they were, otherwise afraid to make. And then the other thing, we teased this last podcast, but the intersection between friendship and gameplay here is one of the biggest, like story points for what's going on here. Ultimately, Alex tells Rob that he's going to vote him out at 4 because Alex like considers Rob like a real friend, and that this is like something that a friend would do is make sure not to blindside him and just like be transparent with him. But that causes Rob to vote him out, and Rob even talks about how, I'm like friends with these people, but like that I'm still going to try and beat him, So how has like friendship here, like become problematic for these players? Where did they take it too far? Scott, do you have a thought on this idea?
About them being friends and taking it too far?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was wondering that like throughout this whole episode, like as they're lounging around and it's like, especially when Alex tells Rob like, I'm going to vote you out in the final 4. Like I had to do a double take.
Yeah. That's like, a wild thing that happened.
Like, did I really just hear what I think I just heard? Like, why would you tell somebody that? Like, right. I don't know. I thought that Rob played it really well though. Like I don't feel like he really reacted. He just kind of said, oh yeah, cool. And then, I mean, I don't know. I'm surprised at how much these 4, I guess how much the 3, not so much Rob, like are so buddy. Like you don't really get the sense that they remember that they're playing a game. I don't know. But yeah, I thought that Rob played that well, obviously, and responded well to him, basically telling him, you're the target.
Yeah, like, let's not understate how wildly bad an idea it is to tell someone, hey, in 3 tribal councils, I think we're going to vote you out. Like, what a terrible decision, regardless of how close you are with somebody.
It's just strategically, like, why?
Yeah.
To what end? Like,
I don't think there's any strategy there. I think he was just feeling real comfy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What an idiot, right?
Well, and he just like, he acknowledges that Heidi and Jenna are together. Like those two, we're not going to separate. So when it comes down to 1, 2, 3, 4, they're going to vote together.
Yeah.
So if you win immunity, I'm out. And if I win immunity, you're out.
Right.
Instead of acknowledging that and saying those two are going to vote together, we need to make sure we eliminate them before that becomes a problem.
Right.
Like that is a normal strategic talk.
Yeah.
But that's where I thought he was going.
Yeah. But like, he's so friendly with this person that he's just like, you know what? Nothing we can do about those two, but I'm going to target you. Like, what?
Yeah.
You acknowledge the problem. You're aware enough of the game to see the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Alex, do you see this in later seasons, or is this just a lack of strategy because it's an early season?
Yeah, I can't think of a good like thing that's analogous to this. I think sometimes you have people telling people like as a courtesy, like, hey, it's you tonight, when they're like definitely on the bottom, but yeah, they still like care about them and don't want them to get totally blindsided and like hurt,
Mm-hmm.
But that's categorically different, right? Because if it's tonight, you have limited time to deal with it. It's probably already in motion. To say like in 3 tribal councils, we're going to vote you out. He can be like, okay, I have plenty of time to deal with this and can really think through how I'm going to deal with it. And there's still numbers around for me to deal with it, Yeah, it's just a wild thing for someone to do. Especially to like an ally, like it would be one thing if they're opposed and like, he's saying, I don't have plans to work with this person, But
and Rob's response to this is so interesting because instead of looking at him and saying, okay, why don't we try to eliminate Heidi or Jenna then? He just accepts it. He says, yeah, totally. And then goes and finds someone who's going to be loyal to him. Yeah. Like, it's such a perfect move. You just see this like really high level strategy in this moment that this season does not deserve, but like it gets.
And then like you see maybe like some of the undercover stuff that Rob has working for him too, which is like the relationship management with people like Matthew and Butch and Christy, who are not his primary alliance, but now in this moment of need, he can go to, and they're going to come through for him.
And he's not the biggest problem for those people. Like all of those people are like, yeah, like Rob isn't like necessarily sticking with us, but he's not the problem. Like Alex thinks he's in charge, and Heidi and Jenna think they're in charge, and like.
Yeah, you get some weariness from Christy. She's the only one who really expresses that, but I think Matthew and Butch are all in. And I think, again, the common theme. Matthew said something interesting, I think, about this too, where it's like, and actually, it was, I take that back. It was Rob at Tribal. He said that, like, anybody can treat the people that you're friends with and that you're aligned with well and, like, care for them. But it's like, where strategy really comes in is treating the people that you're not aligned with well and like caring for them and building relationships with everyone, not just the people that you're closest to. And that, I think that's really what saves Rob, if not, immediately down the line in this episode.
Yeah. Well, and Rob brings up, because I think this was the right play, but Rob brings up the fact that in doing this, he's guaranteeing 3 people on the jury who won't vote for him. Which I think is really true probably in an early season like this.
Yeah. Like by
even though
betraying
strategically
Alex
it's the
and
right
Jenna
move to
and
make,
Heidi.
and like you shouldn't have a problem defending this move.
Right.
But I don't know, that's such a problem to have, but because he's dealt with people so well up to this point, it shouldn't be a problem to get those other 4 people to recognize, like, yeah, like Rob was the best player, Rob was the nicest person, or whatever. You just have to take it just makes picking the right person difficult.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it leads into like not in modern Survivor, but I would say like mid-season Survivor, one of like the things that is said a lot is flippers never win. Meaning that if you flip on your alliance, even if you get to the end, people are mad at you and you can't win. And I think, what that ultimately comes down to is this, like, the reality is that people are way more upset at somebody that they feel is loyal to them that betrays you than somebody who is on the other side of things and votes you out. Like people in this case, like Alex and Heidi and Jenna, are going to be way more upset at Rob because they thought that they had something going, whereas if he was, not as committed to them and voted them out, maybe they have a better chance than at the end of voting for him. And that, of course, like goes to this other idea of like this balance of playing the game to get to the end versus to win the game. Of course, you can't win the game unless you get to the end.
Right.
But also you have to, like, if you get to the end and you haven't done anything or you've done the wrong things, it's hard to win, It's tough to balance both those things. And I think in this case, Rob made a move that gave him a better chance of getting it to the end, but made it harder for him to win if he gets there. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, he just needs to make sure that he takes Jenna or Heidi, and then only 2 people on the jury are in that original alliance.
That's a good point. Taking the people with you that aren't going to vote for you. Yeah, that's a smart move. So Alex is gone after telling his target that he's his target. Tough look for my guy, Alex. Anything else from this episode that we missed before we move on to Fantasy Survivor? Actually, I had one more question. We are at the final 6 now, folks. This season is reaching its end. All the way, we're down to final 6. Who is in a good spot right now? I'll have each of you answer this, but as you look at the remaining field, who do you think really has the best shot of taking the cake?
Man.
We've got Heidi, Matthew, Butch, Rob, Christy, and Jenna.
I want to say Heidi, honestly.
And why is that?
I don't know. That was a split second decision.
What's your gut leading you to there?
I think she's been in the top alliances for most of the game. I think she hasn't made enemies, really. She seems very like positive. The only thing is lately they've been showing her lounging around camp.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could hurt her a bit, but she doesn't seem as divisive as Jenna.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah, I think that's
she just
fair
seems like
point.
a very neutral person, but who's always been in like the strategic conversations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's in the right group, but less of like, I don't know, less outward than some of the other people.
She wouldn't have people who would vote against her on the jury because they don't like her.
Mm-hmm. But is she in the right group anymore? Now the numbers have shifted.
Yeah. I think that the obvious choice to this question is Rob.
I'm just thinking too of like, not only does he have these 3 new enemies still on the jury, I wonder how Dina would vote.
Well, but that's the problem with it being the obvious choice is Rob has a clear path to the final 2, but he still has to get there.
Right.
Being technically, I mean, he thinks he has Butch, Matthew, and Christy kind of like they'll do what he says, but I don't know that that's true. I think that we might see Christy or Matthew, you know, kind of respond differently to that, or, you know, turn on him at some point, because it'll be an easy way to get him out when Jenna and Heidi next week go berserk about this. I genuinely don't know. I think we could see Matthew in the final.
I'd love to see Christy.
Yeah. I think at this point it just comes down to winning challenges. Like
that's a great point.
I'm not sure the alliances are as important anymore because no one is really in control. No one is really strong with anybody else except for Jenna and Heidi.
It's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, and these late game immunity challenges, especially in early seasons of Survivor, are like way more important than, you know, later in the game for that reason. Like if you win a bunch of immunity challenges on a run late in the game, like you're setting yourself up really well. And you really, in the era of Final 2, winning the Final 3 immunity challenge is huge because not only are you definitely making it to Final 2, you are now choosing who you go to Final 2 with, right? Because you're effectively making the one vote at Final 3, as we saw in Cagayan, right? Wu wins Final 3 immunity challenge, picks wrong in who to take with him, and it costs him the game, right? It's same sort of deal here in these early seasons where we have Final 2s. Scott, who's in a good spot in your eyes?
My thought was Heidi and Jenna, just because there's 2 of them. I don't know which one.
Yeah.
So that's a non-answer.
They are definitely like given to us as a pair, though.
Yeah, and it's just because like at this point, like we said, it's kind of a crapshoot. So for that reason, having that one person that you know like is with you, I guess that gives you a better shot. I guess in this case, or in their case, like they haven't really. We still don't necessarily think of them as being that big of a threat. So. I don't know. I think they're more set up, I guess, than everyone else. Even though Rob may have just flipped on them. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see indeed. How about we move on to Fantasy Survivor then? taking a look at the scores from this episode. Again, Scott, it was a tough week for your squad. Yeah. Not only did you lose Alex, but you only got a measly 5 points from Jenna. And now you're down to only Jenna. Emily, the Poison Dart Frog tribe was the highest scoring tribe today. Congratulations. Yay. 20 points from Rob since he won immunity. You also got a full 10 from Christy. And then Adam received 25 points, only 5 from Heidi, but a full 10 from Matthew and Butch. And as things stand now, guys, the game has gotten close. In third place, the Poison Dart Frogs rolling up with 300 points. Adam's Believe in Yourself and Alien Squad is at 345 and still holding on to a lead with 360 points is Tribe Bangarang.
Closing that gap, though.
And we've only got 2 episodes and the finale remaining. So we are nearing the home stretch, and it's truly anyone's game. Adam has the lead as far as remaining tribe members with 3. Emily has 2. Scott has 1, but Scott has the point lead. So we will see how things shake out. Well, how about some MVPs, folks? Time to name
Does anybody want to trade?
Oh, we can do trades first. Let's do trades first, then we'll do MVPs. Good call. As is tradition, Emily, you are on the bottom as far as points go, so you get the chance to propose a trade first. You have Rob and Christy left on your squad. Are you looking to shop either of those two?
No.
Standing pat, huh?
Do you say it like that because you won't give them up or because you don't know?
I just think I could offer one up and then next week it'll just be completely different and I'll be like, rats. Just like what happened to you and Scott last time.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
All right. Adam,
Sorry to make it not fun.
You're next, Adam. Any trades you'd like to explore?
You know, I think the only person I'd want to add to my team is Rob, but I'm not even sure who I'd want to give up for Rob. So I think I'm going to pass as well. But I feel it's because I weirdly feel good. I went from like 2 weeks ago feeling terrible about where my tribe was to feeling pretty good about it overall.
All right. Hoping Heidi, Matthew, and Butch can bring you the bacon. Scott, you've got Jenna. Are you looking to deal Jenna?
Well, the other two have said they are not dealing. The natural inclination would be like, oh, I'm going down, offload everybody, but I'm going to stand pat with Jenna.
Okay.
Gonna ride with the people I picked. So
right.
Dance with the one who brought you.
That's right.
Yep.
We'll see if that will be a decision you are glad you made or one that you will regret.
I think I want to win right now more than I did at the beginning of the season.
Oh my goodness.
Because you have
I have hope.
I went there was like such a high where I started the season like, yeah, I'm gonna crush it, and then like, nope, we're gonna lose so badly, to now where I'm like, I can do it.
Yeah. The underdog story. Come from behind. How about
but also like we say that, and the last time I was in last place after episode 4, and then after that I've just been like steadily in second.
Let's not forget about the Poison Dart Frogs, though. Rob and Christy is a good tandem here to ride the
really good tandem.
Some points, Poison Dart Frogs.
Honestly, we could see a Rob and Christy final 2, and it would not surprise me.
I would be so pleased.
I bet you would.
Thank you.
How about some MVPs? Scott, you're still leading. So who is your weekly MVP?
Rob would be too easy of a pick. So I'm going to say Matthew.
Okay. Why Matthew?
Because he was I was just very impressed with his, like I mentioned before, like his confessionals. I was very impressed with his self-awareness, I guess. Like he knows what's happening in the game.
Yeah.
More than maybe like we maybe have said before. And also, like, I think it took a lot. Like Rob's told him, like, straight up, like he was being used, and I feel like he took that on the chin and responded positively.
Yeah.
And like he could have like completely shut out Rob at that point. Then he did. And because of that, he's still here.
Yeah.
So
a fair pick.
And just to be a contrarian, because I feel like Rob had a really good episode as well.
All right, Adam, what about you? Who gets your MVP?
Yeah, Rob and Matthew are my toss-up. I'll throw it to Rob. He made the move to abandon his alliance, which is a really tough move to make in early season Survivor, when people are so fickle about who they're going to vote for on the jury. He also came clean to Matthew, which was nice. I definitely appreciated how Matthew, gave him another chance, and had some really great testimonials this episode. But Rob, he did the right thing. He went to Matthew and he was like, you know what? I've been playing you, man. And I'm sorry about that. And it's you and me. We're going to ride or die. I thought it was a great move, and hopefully it works out for him. Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't, because then that means Poison Dart Frogs has a shot. But
Emily, what about you? Who's going to get your point?
Yeah, Rob was the easy pick, but I'll go with that. I was just very pleased to see his shakeup of the tribe. They were getting too comfortable.
Yeah. I think I'm going to give mine to Rob as well. I was especially impressed with some of the more like soft gameplay this week. Like we said before, like it's evidence that he has maintained relationships, good working relationships with Christy, Butch, and Matthew. Matthew's been pretty clear to us, but less so Butch and Christy. To be able to rally them here at the 11th hour and swing a move was impressive, and that he didn't waste any time while they still had an easy numbers advantage to grab and vote Alex out. Yeah, I think was a very savvy move, that while it does create some enemies and may have some negative consequences, also, if somebody tells you right to your face they're going to vote you out at a point down the line, it's probably a good idea to vote him out first. So he accomplishes just that. Anything else before we wrap up this episode?
I think Scott didn't want to give it to Rob because he wanted Dina to have as many MVPs as possible compared to Rob.
No, you're on to me. I've been had. Bullocks.
Bullocks. Oh, boy. Well, great episode, guys. Thank you, as always, for joining me. And next time on Outwatch, we will be recapping episode 12 of this season, titled Sour Grapes. Just this one and one more before we get to our live finale. Make sure that you subscribe on our podcast, your podcast feed of choice, and drop us a line on Twitter at Outwatch Podcast or on email at outwatchpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know which of us you think is most likely to not survive. I know you probably don't know us, but you've spent a lot of time with us, hours with us, in fact, now in your ears, and I feel like you've gotten to know us pretty well. So, just give us your perception, I suppose.
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah, I like to know how I'm being perceived.
Drop us some hate mail. Don't actually do that. We're very fragile. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.